Hello and welcome to Future Back Drinking, a new podcast series from PepsiCo in Time. I'm your host, Dr. Athina Kanioura, and as PepsiCo's Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, I believe it's incredibly important to speak with today's industry leaders and explore the emerging innovations and ideas that are certain to impact all of us. And in this episode, I sat down for a virtual coffee with Arvind Krishna. Arvind is the chairman and CEO of IBM and a dear friend of PepsiCo. Throughout his 33-year career at IBM, he has made scientific contributions in a number of technical fields, including wireless networking, security, systems, and databases. He founded IBM's security software business and helped create the world's first commercial wireless system. For those who don't know, IBM is responsible for the invention of some of the most noteworthy products that have shaped our world today. Everything from electric typewriter to computer memory, and, of course, making the PC a mainstream product. There is no doubt that the company is transforming the world of tomorrow. Here is our conversation. Hi, Arvind. Thank you so much for joining me.
Athina, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And when you talk about that long list, it makes us sound like historians almost.
Well, it's about the reinvention also of the company and how IBM has contributed in the technology innovation and the history of technology across the globe, which is, obviously a topic that I would like us to touch also today. Firstly, thank you for joining this episode. It's a great honor, a great pleasure. You have been in IBM now 33 years. You have seen it all, right? You have seen everything from legacy technology, how the world adapted some of the new thinking, the big successes and the big failures. What are the key highlights in this journey of the past 33 years that is kind of sticks to your memory as key moments of success and maybe failures as well?
Yeah. So, Athina, it's a great question and one that, as you can imagine, in my role, I reflect on a fairly regular basis. So there's a few things to always watch out for. We can, all of us, get too fond of, I'll use that word, and too attached to areas where we had success in the past, but where client value in the future is decreasing. But you've got to learn not to overinvest into those areas. You've got to go to others. Then when it comes to new areas, as you went through that list that IBM has done, I think the areas where we succeeded was where there was clear benefit to our clients, that if they deploy these technologies, they can do something they couldn't do before, or they can do it at much better cost, or with much lower skill. Those are the areas where I think we succeed. Like the PC you use as the example, it meant much lower skill. People could use this. They didn't have to go to a Heathkit or a Radio Shack and kind of assemble their own thing. So the skill level decreased and made it accessible. I think really that's what people kind of remember about the PC. So an area I'm glad we did not invest in is virtual reality and what's being called the metaverse. It may play out one of these days, but I don't really see where we would benefit. So I'm actually glad we did not. You've also got to recognize when somebody else has a significant lead, and if you're far enough behind, there's enough technology spent, there's enough areas. You can't go chase something. While it is very, very attractive, you're actually not going to get to a top 2-3 position in it. So those are my macro observations. So then I come down to, I'm really proud of our incumbency and the value we give our clients in a lot of strategic enterprise computing, whether it's around how we help our clients take advantage of, maybe this is personal for the two of us, take advantage of SAP in a modern world. Or
exactly.
for our banking clients, how they leverage the mainframe for credit card authorizations and fraud and security are some examples. I'll call that areas where we do well, and we should invest a lot to make sure that our clients keep getting value. You've got to then focus on areas where they want to go. Everybody wants to go through digital transformation. Which partners do we partner with? Where do we invent our own technologies? In this new world of AI, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, how do we make it fit for business, not just fit for consumer? How do we bring other computing technologies into the mainstream. One example, and I'll openly talk about one which has not succeeded. I was convinced 10 years ago that blockchain would be an enterprise computing technology. Let me completely acknowledge, it is nowhere there. Blockchain for crypto, blockchain for asset ledgers, maybe. Blockchain as a form of computing for enterprises, not quite yet. And that is just a lesson to all of us. While we can think of the value up front, in the end, value is derived from how people deploy and use things. And if that's not there, then you've got to acknowledge that we've got to do more work. Maybe there's a use case, maybe there isn't.
Right.
You mentioned wireless computing. I did work on that 30 years ago. And that is one where I think there's been an incredible amount of success. And working on the early days there is one of my fondest memories. You could see the vision. Laptops, by the way, were just coming. I'm old enough that laptops weren't really common when I started my career at IBM. But by 92 or 93, they were. And I said, hey, if you can carry your computer around, why do you need a long cord connecting you to the network? So it was such an obvious insight. And then you can go down that path and begin to see. And all of it, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, in the first 5 years, you could imagine it all. It just takes 10 more years for it to get fully deployed.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Arvind, let me follow up from this one, because there is always sometimes this dilemma between value, innovation, and Horizon 3+ thinking, right?
Yes.
And on IBM, you do everything. You do kind of short-term deployments, you do long-term thinking, innovation that is relevant for the now and in the future. And in the context of that, you have been, I would say, the pioneers of quantum computing.
Yep.
And you can classify quantum computing in pretty much every category. Is it still an innovation? Is it still kind of at scale? Does it drive value, yes or no? So, your perspective of quantum, because you are the design authority and you are the expert company in this one, would be super useful.
Yeah. So, look, first, I'm really, really excited by the work we're doing in quantum. But to be fair, you categorize it as kind of Horizon 3. It is still in the future. While we can describe the value, people have yet to get the value in their commercial businesses. So let's just acknowledge that. Look, I think the best way to describe quantum is the way Richard Feynman talked about it. And Richard Feynman is one of the world's preeminent physicists, invented so many things in the area of theoretical physics. And I think he once made the statement, if you want to simulate nature, you need a quantum computer. And he was asked, do you believe quantum computers violate any principles of physics? And his answer was no. They can be made. Somebody just has to figure out how. So when we think about quantum computers, they're really working, trying to leverage particles, the principles of quantum physics. And this is where people's heads hurt, because I'll call it normal intuition doesn't apply. Quantum physics talks about, hey, one particle can have an impact on another particle, entanglement, or superposition. Things are in multiple states. It's only when you observe them that they come back to only one state. And you kind of say, okay, translate that. I'll say the intuition is like this. If we imagine computers are looking through a space of answers and try to get to the right one, our digital computers of today must go through all possible answers, and then when you get the right one, you pick it out. Quantum computers can kind of look at all the answers and kind of say, hey, this looks like the right one, but it's a probabilistic answer. It's not a deterministic. So the plus can be, hey, if all this works, you can get to the correct answer really, really quickly.
Right.
The bad, it's never going to be repeatable and deterministic. It is a probabilistic thing. So now the question is, where are these things going to be useful? So if I want to simulate nature, maybe you say, nature, who the hell cares about nature? Well, maybe we care about EV batteries. Maybe we care about energy storage. Suddenly to worry about how lithium hydride might behave in some medium and not catch fire but have a much higher density sounds like a really interesting problem. And maybe down the road, can we come up with molecules that are better for certain kind of drugs to attack the diseases that are still kind of chronic? So I think quantum computing is going to allow us to do this. So your question is, hey, is this all science fiction? Is this all down the road, or is it here and now? I actually think we're about 2-3 years away from major breakthroughs here. So just facts first. We have 70 working quantum computers. So actual quantum
Wow.
computers. Now, they're not yet big enough to solve tough problems, but they are big enough to solve real problems. But let's admit it, problems that you could also solve on other computers. But we've been making progress. I look at the progress, it seems to be at the rate of about 3x, meaning it's improving by 3 times a year. As you know from compounding, 3 times a year adds up pretty quick. So every 2 years, it's about 10 times better. So that's why maybe 3, maybe 5, but I think on the shorter side, we're going to see some really interesting results emerge in this area.
Wonderful. So you do see applications, if I were to look at the industries like manufacturing, for sure in R&D and anything that requires, big simulation optimization problems to solve for from practical reasons.
Absolutely. So I always say, you don't really want your bank balance being answered by a quantum computer because you don't want it to say you have $2 today and 2 million tomorrow, because that's the world of
I
probability.
hope not.
But, you said optimization. So route optimization to maybe work on how one can have less miles on trucks, because there are physical goods in the real world. That's an optimization problem. And certainly materials, chemicals, discovery, and the R&D side. I actually think it'll go in order: R&D side first, risk and optimization second, and then some of the tougher problems like search and AI for quantum, probably in the order I just mentioned.
That is wonderful, and I think it would resonate with a lot of our speakers and other companies as well, because it's a problem that hasn't been solved so far. If I were to look at our R&D colleagues in terms of the speed of execution and experimentation, especially on breakthrough innovation, where probabilistic theory does play a significant role, as you highlighted.
Absolutely. And I think that combining always, the moment we go to probabilistic methods, they've been very powerful in a lot of areas. And we can think of quantum as being the first computer that at its heart is a probabilistic machine. So it can do things. Imagine if somebody in capital markets could get a better price in real time, let's say in milliseconds, as opposed to depending upon that simulation from a week ago. How much money is there to be made in that world if you could do that?
Yeah, of course. Now, we discussed a bit about the future, near future, because as you said, in a couple of years, we expect more scalability, industrialization. But now the big thing, across the world, whether it's consumer applications or enterprise applications, is AI. And more specifically, Gen AI as part of that. You as a company is investing a lot, is doing a lot, right? Is one of the top leading companies, not just in terms of thinking, but also implementation of AI technology and design of AI technology and software. So your perspective would be super useful.
Yeah. So Athina, really great question. And as you know, I'm a passionate believer that I believe that this current generation of AI, generative AI as the world, I think, calls it, but really based on the underlying technology of what is called large language models, is going to be incredibly powerful. We have seen and all tasted an idea that it can be. When we saw GPT come out, when we saw some of these things that can produce videos, and produce all kinds of new text. Those are really interesting use cases, albeit most of what we've seen has been in a consumer context, not yet in an enterprise context. So as I think about it, I think we've all had the vision that AI could help us in enterprise, in processes, in taking care of routine work, in helping us really become more productive, in scaling how the enterprise works. The problem is that till LLMs came along, AI was deemed as too expensive, too fragile, too bespoke to be able to do it. So when you had a use case that had massive scale and you were okay with spending the money to build an AI model, you could go do it, but you wouldn't do it for everything. It's a very rough characterization. It's not a perfect analogy, but I think that's kind of where we were. Now we get a technology that says, hey, let's apply, I'll call it almost, we see this play out again and again in computing. It's kind of a brute force way. If you give me lots and lots of data, without a lot of human intervention, we can create these things called large language models. The large comes from they're being trained on lots and lots of data. Now, the advantage of these is they can do many, many tasks, not just one task, so they're not bespoke and that fragile. Now, it does need a little bit of compute, so I'll say that is where the costs are, to your point of heavy investment. But I think that now that we have learned the technique, now the question comes, do we really need to be that computationally intensive? And the answer is no, we don't. So if we have no idea of what we might want, I might ask you a question that involves a model writing a poem or doing middle school math or understanding French. I need a large model because it needs to be able to do anything and I can't predict. But if I know what I want to do, I know that I would like to summarize email, or I know I want to help a customer care agent, suddenly the domain of the problem shrinks and one can create a large language model, because to me, 30 billion parameters is still large, but it's not as large as a trillion parameters. And those now become really cost effective and as good as the largest models for an enterprise use case. That is why, to me, the excitement. Can we do models that can help a worker who's, in front of a customer or a business partner who's looking at things, and can you get them a better answer and quicker because the model can help the agent do their work? I think that's a really powerful use case. As we begin to do these, I get really excited by what these models can do. And I also think that they're going to come to the edge, not just in the center of the cloud, to help in other use cases. For example, if I look at Pepsi, you have retailers and merchants in some countries. You have the very big ones like the Walmarts and the Targets and those guys. That's one extreme. And then you have the corner shop in India who might be really doing
family-owned, one or two member. Yeah, exactly.
One or two members. They're not going to have an IT center and a data center. And can we do things at the edge that help them improve their lives, and whether it's inventory management or control or pricing? So that's why it really excites me. And I think, you asked me a question about thinking about Horizon 1, one should have 90% plus chance of success. Horizon 3, maybe 30 to 50, best case, somewhere there. Quantum is in that Horizon 3 bucket for now. AI, to me, is in the 90 plus. It has 90 plus % chance of helping make the enterprise and our employees more productive. And so I urge people to think about the use cases and scale them and get going, but use the fit for purpose like I was describing.
Wonderful. I'm sure that seems to be one of your big missions. So I will leave that question for later on about, the legacy you want to leave behind. A very quick word on AI and sustainability, Arvind, from you. We've seen some of your recent announcements about how you want to support efforts around planet conservation, some of the initiatives in Africa. So how do you see your role and your responsibility as a global institution for some of those broader efforts in sustainability?
But let's look at all of us. Do we all like living in a place with clean water? Do we all like living in a place with clean land? Do we all like living where I don't have to worry about pollution in the air? The short answer is yes. History has shown that those are the places that attract the most people. Those are the places where everybody wants to go. Those are the places where quality of life becomes the highest. So I just react with it that way. Okay, so in that principle, should we make sure that we don't put toxic metals back in the ground? Should we make sure that we try and recycle as much of our waste? Do we make sure that we use as much clean energy as possible? And can we use our technologies around both AI and quantum to help those goals? I actually believe that our employees and our communities want us to do that. Now, I actually believe that here is where running a corporation well and actually achieving the sustainable goals go together. So when we go down a clean energy path, we are going to probably pay a bit more. But if we also focus on conservation, turning the lights out at night, raising the temperature in the summer at night, all those things are more powerful than just the increase because of clean energy. And so thinking about it correctly drives a huge amount of advantage, I believe. And I kind of say it funnily, but purpose and profit go together. These are not contradictory in this one. So we set out a goal, by the way. We are going to be 100% on clean energy by 2030. Out of our various goals, that's the only one I'll mention. And you say, hey, that's an easy goal for 6 years out. But we are at 65% today.
Wow.
So I always have a philosophy in business. The first 60 to 70% is easy. So you should get that done in 40% of the time. The last 30 to 40% is always harder. So give yourself more time. Don't make it linear and this thing. So I actually fundamentally believe that as a business principle, and in this case on sustainability.
That's definitely risk hedging. Arvind, it's very, very, very good. Before we go to the lightning round, last question for you around the legacy. 33 years in IBM, you love this company. This is your family. What would you like to see before you pass the baton?
So I always look at it first from a client lens and then from a business lens. My client lens says, I want all our clients to be delighted with the innovation they get from IBM. And if they can deploy that innovation to make their business better, which is kind of the history you began by laying out, that is what I really want more than anything else. So that will get captured always in brand perception and awareness and what is the intrinsic value of a company, etc. Then in terms of very tangible, I'd like us to get one or two more platforms. Platforms is how, as tech companies, we survive. You mentioned the PC, we can all mention the mainframe. So there are platforms that IBM has built that have lasted forever. I'd say Java is another one that we built about 20 years ago. I'd like to get going on a couple of platforms so we can get our AI platform established for enterprises. That is one legacy I would like to leave behind. And the second I would like to talk about is, can I get going that quantum will be, hopefully in the time I'm still here or otherwise for somebody after me, but will be a new form of computing, and it gets labeled with, an IBM helped invent this.
Wonderful. Okay, lightning round for you. Some of them are quite tricky, but, feel free to give us your unbiased view. If you weren't at IBM, what other career path might have you pursued?
Government or academia?
I think academia for you, Arvind. I bet you. I think you could be an excellent professor. And I've seen Arvind audience. He's amazing with an audience and how he explains things. Okay, difficult. How do you disconnect from technology when you need a break?
So actually, if I do two things. If I really need a break, I pick up, I'll use the word, a dense book. So usually something in nonfiction, something about a subject I don't know that well. And sometimes it'll surprise people. It'll be a graduate school textbook because I just want to learn about a topic. And I leave my phone in a different room. So there is no interruption, and then you can read. And I find that an evening of doing that works wonders for me.
Awesome. You could definitely be an academic. I say that. Okay. Is there a piece of outdated tech that you're still nostalgic about, and why is this special?
Calculator.
Ooh.
So I still have my college calculator, and it mostly still works. It's now 45 years old because that was the piece of technology that was in your hands and you could use it in those days. And kind of when you went from paper pencil to slide rule to calculator, it made such a world of difference. And like many technologies, the high school teachers would complain, you can't use a calculator, you can't do math. And then you started using it and it made you better at doing math because it took away the mundane piece. And your reaction is, people come up with these myths in their head that technology is harmful. And it's always, always useful and makes you more productive.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure my boys share the same view. Okay, so I'll end with my favorite question. If you were to grab a drink with someone, anyone, who would that be and why?
Claude Shannon. So Claude Shannon did his work at Bell Labs and then MIT. And he, in World War II, worked on radar. He invented literally digital communications. He also worked on binary logic. Think of transistors and all the switching and compute we live with. How many people can you point to who went across that spectrum? And he had a way to explain things in such simple terms that you could grab it. But he also built games. He also built video machines. What a person.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. Arvind, thank you very much. I want to say, a great honor for me to talk to you as always. I'm sure I'll see you again very, very soon, I would say. Cheers. Great discussion as always, a great leader as always, very insightful conversation.
Athina, always a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you for having me on this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Future Back Drinking. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected with us on all your favorite podcast platforms.